I'm 77 years old. 77. And the thing I need to tell you right now, before I say anything else, is that I am not going to sugarcoat a single word of this. We don't have time for sugarcoating anymore. Statistically, a man who makes it to 65 has about 16 years left. Just 16. I know that sounds abstract when you're in your 50s, still working, still running, and believing the best is somewhere just over the next horizon. But I'm here. I'm past that 65 marker. And let me tell you what those 16 years actually look like from the inside. The first few are good, but the data shows that most men will spend a significant portion of their final chapter managing a slow decline, a diagnosis, a loss of mobility, or an uncertainty that no retirement calculator ever puts a number next to. The question I have for you today is heavy, but it's necessary. What are you actually building? Not saving, not preserving, building. I am Dan Wall, and understanding the difference between those words is the single shift that changed the entire second half of my life. Welcome to the Rich Retiree. If you're ready to stop just surviving your 60s and start creating real lasting wealth, subscribe to the channel right now. My story starts with my father. He worked the same manufacturing job for 31 years. Same clock in, same clock out. The same firm handshake every Friday. He was proud of that. The deal he raised me to believe in was simple. Work hard, save steadily, keep your head down, and at 65, the real life finally begins. I carried that gospel into my own career in insurance. I built a territory, I built trust, and I built a family. Margaret and I married in 72, bought the house with the oak trees, and drove the sensible used cars. We had a financial advisor, Dennis, who had a chart on his wall showing compound interest curving beautifully up and to the right. Every year he'd tap that chart and say, "Dan, just keep feeding the machine. At 65, you'll be right here." And he'd point to a number that looked like a fortress. Safe, certain, final. I believed the chart. I believed that Social Security and Medicare were the safety nets that would catch every fall. I treated retirement like a finish line, where I could finally drop the weight and just rest. Margaret and I spent decades planning the Amalfi Coast, driving the full length of Route 66, spending endless hours with the grandkids. We wanted that deep, earned rest. I worked until I was 66, 1 year extra, just to be safe and maximize the math. The retirement party was a blur of sheet cake and handshakes. But when I drove home that Tuesday afternoon and sat in my silent kitchen, a dread I couldn't name washed over me. I had followed the formula to the letter, but I realized I had spent 40 years preparing to stop, and not a single day preparing for what it meant to stay alive. The first year had its beauty. We finally saw Italy. But reality has a way of crashing the party. My right knee, which I'd ignored for years during the grind, decided it was finished. Walking those cobblestone streets became a nightmare. We came home early. Then came Margaret's health scare. She's healthy now, thank God. But that year of specialists and out-of-network costs showed me the cracks in my fortress. I sat at my table one night with a legal pad. I realized that my safe retirement plan was actually a floor. It was enough to exist, but it wasn't enough to live without fear of the next medical bill or the next market dip. I was 68 years old, and I felt more financially vulnerable than I did at 30. The wake-up call came from my brother-in-law, Frank. He was 64 and about to retire from real estate when a firm offered him a consulting gig. He said, "Dan, they aren't paying for my hours anymore. They're paying for my 30 years of patterns. My experience is worth more today than it ever was when I was 40. That hit me like a lightning bolt. I spent the next 2 weeks making calls, not as a salesman looking for a commission, but as a senior advisor. I reached out to business owners I knew and offered to audit their risks, The stuff the young guys miss because they haven't lived through the cycles yet. To my shock, they didn't just say yes, they were relieved to have me. Within a year, I was working 15 hours a week from my home office. It was surplus income. I didn't need it for the electric bill, so I invested it aggressively. But the real miracle wasn't the money. It was the energy. That part of my brain that solves problems, that connects people, that creates value. It woke up. It never wanted to retire. It just wanted to work on its own terms. Here is the truth we discuss here at The Rich Retiree. Your 401k and your pension are your floor. Build them, protect them, but do not let your greatest asset, your mind and your decades of experience, go to waste. There is a massive market of younger professionals and businesses who are starving for the wisdom you take for granted. When you shift from preserving to building differently, the fear of the future disappears. You aren't just watching a pile of money dwindle. You're watching a new stream grow. My net worth at 77 is higher than it was at 66. Not because of luck, but because I refuse to stop being a builder. Last spring, Margaret and I went back to Positano. This time I had the right knee surgery behind me, the right shoes, and a consulting business that funded the whole trip. We sat above the water, and for the first time, I felt like I had truly won. I won against the version of myself that almost gave up at 65. I'm 77. Time is the only currency I care about now. In this journey, the moment you decide you're done is the moment you start to fade. But the moment you decide there is one more thing to build, one more legacy to leave, the world opens up again. Don't wait for the perfect time to start your next chapter. Don't wait until you feel 100% ready. Ready is a myth. Start small, reach out to your network, and realize that your wisdom is worth more than your gold. 77 comes faster than you think. Make sure that when you get here, you're standing on a mountain you built, not a floor you're afraid will break. I am Dan Wall, and this is The Rich Retiree. Subscribe, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.